Oh, is it? Oh, Lordy.
Call the Simpson County Fiscal Court to order for the purpose of this joint called meeting of the Franklin City Commission and the Simpson County Fiscal Court. I want to welcome those that will be viewing by internet, and welcome the guests here today, and welcome the city. And Mayor, I'm assuming you'd like to call the City Commission to order.
Yes. It is now time to call the regular meeting of the City Commission to order, and all in favor, aye. Aye.
All right, Mayor, I've got you down here. If you would lead us in a word of prayer, and we'll follow that with the pledge to the American flag.
Let us pray. Our most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, that you have of the blessings that you have given us for the day. And Lord, as we go into this meeting, we ask your blessings upon it. Lord, we have a great community. We're thankful for our community, and we ask your blessings again upon it. And Lord, as we go further into the meeting, we ask that you would open our minds and open our hearts to hear and to say the things that you would have us to say according to your will. And I pray that we will let the words of our mouths and the meditations of our heart be acceptable unto you. O Lord, I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Mayor, as you're aware, we both, the court and the commission, both recently adopted new ordinances establishing new dates and times for these two joint meetings. I think it'll work out good because it conflicted with the KLC on our fall meeting with city, and then I think both meetings were typically on Tuesdays. So now one of those meetings will be on the same day that you guys typically have a meeting. It'll be early that morning prior to y'all's meeting. So I think it worked out really well. But at any rate, we're glad to have everyone with us. We have a few things we're going to get updates on, and then we'll move into some business. I know we have Miss Lisa Devers, our Parks Director here, the Franklin Simpson Parks Director, and I've asked Miss Devers and Mr. Palmer both to give us brief updates, meaning just a few minutes. We don't want to be here till dinner time this evening. So Lisa, if you would, come on up and share a few updates with us about what's going on. How many?
No, I'm pleased.
You can talk as long as you want, but I'll let you know when to sit down.
Yeah, I will be for you because I know you have a long meeting today. Thank you all again for always allowing me to come to each of these joint meetings to give you an update on our parks. We're excited about where we're going with them and working hard to make it a better place for our community. So just to give you a little update, we're winding up all of our athletic leagues. So this year we had a total of 1,361 participants between baseball, softball, adult softball, flag football, soccer, and our first pickleball league. We still continue our senior fitness classes, which meet at the Ag Building Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. This is a free service to our community. We're averaging 45 to 60 participants per day on that. They're quickly outgrowing that space. Just to give you an update on some of the programs that we've done this year in 2023, we added our first ever Puzzle Palooza, which was a puzzle building competition that was sponsored by the Mustard Seed Market. We had 20 teams with 80 participants, ages 5 to 86 on that. Art in the Park, which was for 5th graders. We had over 180 participants for that for 6 weeks. That was in partnership with the Presbyterian Church. We have rescheduled our Power Wheels race, which that will be October 28th. That is an event for ages 2 to 7. So we're trying to expand on different age groups to get them involved in the park. Our next event coming up is October 28th, and that is going to be our Jack-o'-lantern trail, our movie in the park, and s'mores. So this is not a trick-or-treat event, but just an opportunity for people to come out of all ages to enjoy the park. We have a new story walk that has been installed that's theme-related. And then our big one that's coming up that we're already working on is our Nights of Lights drive-through light display. We're still seeking sponsorships for that. Display sponsorships will need to be in by the end of this month, but we can still take some general sponsorships to cover the lights around the ball fields. Currently, last year we had 50 displays. Currently, we have an additional 30 to add to that. As the mayor said in his opening, we have a wonderful community, and it is because of this community that we're able to do this. No funds come from the park budget for this. This is all sponsored by our community, which allows us to keep the drive-through free for our community members, and it's donation-based or non-perishable item-based. Last year, we collected over 3,000 non-perishable items for our local food banks. And so we appreciate the community for supporting this and thank them for doing it. This year, in addition to that, we're going to have an ice skating rink for 1 week from December 14th through the 21st. That's when school will be out. Again, this is fully covered by sponsorships from members of our community. Then, just to give you an update, we've also had some other community organizations conduct events at the park. We've had 2 cruise-ins that were fundraisers back in the summer. And this weekend, if you're looking for something to do, there's another cruise-in fundraiser, and there is also a walking horse show at the park. So there will be some changes in traffic flow if you're coming to the park, as that back entrance and back area will be closed off for the safety of those participants. Park improvements, which thankfully, we have those additional funds from the Mint. So we've been doing cleaning and painting of all the park buildings. If you all have been out there, we now have 1 shade of green, not 5. So all of our playgrounds have been mulched, and they are up to code now, so we did that this summer. The new story walk was installed by the Simpson County Community Education and FSEEF. We have 3 little libraries at all of our parks, thanks to the Friends of the Library. We have done the tennis, basketball, pickleball courts with fence, and that's been both at Lincoln and Jim Roberts. And our dog park is to be completed by the end of the year, which was the date we had set. We made some changes from a shade structure to a shelter, so that has put us behind with that vendor and that contractor on that, but the fence is up. We're just waiting to close that in once we get the shelter in place. And of course, that is partially funded through some of that capital improvement funds, but we are accepting donations, and we will be doing a brick fundraiser as well for the sidewalk and for other costs of that. And then we've been doing a few ag building improvements with doors and the floor. And then finally, just moving forward, community center, per our master plan, we're working with a graduate student at Western who is designing a preliminary plan for us, and we will have that in April. We are working on a community garden for Lincoln Park for next summer. We're working with Michael Farrell and Zach Vincent on that. And we're in the process of working on our grants for the 2.7-mile walking trail to submit next year. Any questions?
Just one. I have one question.
Yes.
Breckenridge Park, is that park under the umbrella of the...
It is.
Do you have any future plans for that park?
We do need to replace that playground because that playground is outdated and not to code. And I think it was probably put in the 80s, possibly. But yes, we do keep it up and maintain it as we do Lincoln and Jim Roberts.
Lisa, I think you're doing a great job.
Well, it's not just me. I have a great team, so and I have to say, I don't think Eric is here, but we're very thankful for the help from the detention center as well, because that's a lot of saving of funds for us and things that we just don't have the staff to cover.
Parks are looking good.
Thank you. And we encourage you to come out anytime, and, any suggestions, comments, please share with us.
Thank you, Lisa.
I may have missed it, but I know you said the ice skate 14 through,
The 21st.
when does the light show start?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say that. The lights will open on November 25th and run through December 25th. They will be open weekends in the beginning, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, from 6 to 9. But starting on that Friday, the 15th, they're open that full week through the 25th.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I will leave you all just a copy of what I went over, and there's one for each of you. Just if you all want to look at it afterwards and have any questions, you can call me.
All
But
right.
thanks again
All right.
for
Thank you.
allowing me to be here.
Thank you. I noticed Kim Roberts is with us today. She heads up FS Renaissance. Do you have an update or anything that you could share with us?
I have a project update that I'd like to talk about.
Can it be brief?
Somewhat.
Okay.
Come on up.
All right, well, come on up.
I do have a packet that will kind of summarize, so I don't have to go over every aspect. Better put my glasses on. Well, everybody knows who I am, Kim Roberts. I'm the director of Franklin Simpson Renaissance. And as most people know, Renaissance is an organization that we take care of the downtown area. I wear a lot of hats, taking care of different aspects of the downtown, but everything we do directly somehow impacts the downtown, whether it's financial, economical, design, beautification. Something that I've wanted to do ever since I took this job almost 3 years ago is I've had my eyes set on this courthouse, and we've done updates and we've spent some money around the outside areas of the courthouse with new projects. But in listening to the community for the last 2 or 3 years, when it comes to Christmas, when we start putting Christmas decorations up downtown, that's when people start walking up. We'd like to see this, we'd like to see that, and of course social media is a big blur of it too. But one thing about our town, we're already unique because everything we do is not ordinary, it's extraordinary. I mean, we take pride, and we've got so many people involved in this town that take pride in it, and I think that's one reason why our town is very unique to a lot of other, especially our courthouse, than any other county in Kentucky. But the project at Renaissance, the Renaissance approved this project yesterday. But one of my main goals, it's not going to happen this year, but we want it to happen by first Saturday of December next year, is we want to light this courthouse back up. And in the packet that I gave you, you'll see kind of a mock-up of what we're thinking and what we've looked into. You'll see a picture from, and I'm not sure what year that was, but it gives you an idea of what the courthouse used to look like years ago when it was lit up. But I know the problems. Myron and I have worked really close together because I knew he was on the project years ago whenever they were stringing lights, and there was always issues with squirrels, issues in keeping the lights up. So I've spent about the last year trying to find a product and a company that would be what we need, something that's permanent. It's not something that you have to get up there every year and restring and fix what squirrels have messed up or whatever. This is a permanent lighting solution for this courthouse that, it's basically during the daytime you can't even hardly see it. You'll see in the packet some pictures and some samples, but to make a long story short, that's what's in the realm of what we're wanting to do. And on your front page of the packet I gave you, I'm not going to go through all the product information. The biggest thing about it is it's a permanent solution. Myron and I have looked at it. We're working with the companies that's listed at the top, and trying to figure out how to make it permanent and make it look as good as possible. This year it's not feasible to get it done by this Christmas because when we do this project, it needs to be done right, and we need a lot of time to make sure it's done right. And so, this is a goal we're setting for first Saturday of December next year, 2024. But Renaissance, and, you know, a lot of people will, you know, who's going to take care of it, who's going to maintain it. So I've listed also, you know, Renaissance, we have approved it will maintain the lights indefinitely. We'll coordinate with the dealers, manufacturer, installer, you know, to get the light, pick exactly the right product, make sure everything's right, and, you know, get that up. And Renaissance is going to front the cost and will be responsible for any difference between what we fundraise, because we will try to get the community involved in this project as much as they want to be involved, and then what's left, Renaissance, you know, we're prepared to meet that difference, and then, you know, Renaissance will be the controller of the system. So the city of the Franklin responsibility is nothing. The only thing fiscal court would be responsible for would paying the electric bill. And it's a low voltage, you know, energy efficient lighting, so shouldn't make that, it's about I figured it up, it's about 800 hours is what they would burn. But these lights have 100,000 hour warranty on them. I mean, well, it's not really a warranty, but they, you know, deem these lights, I mean, that's a lot of years, you know, being about 800. And we would also use this, some of the other aspects of this lighting that I have also listed are, on the second page is the intended usage, because a lot of people ask, you know, what all will we use these for other than Christmas? And that's, you know, that's a good question. So, I mean, one of our main purposes will be for Christmas, but we have lots of other options. There's like over 16,000 different hues of color that you can choose, and you can make patterns, and you can make them dance with music. You can do really whatever you want to with them. But we could use it for, you know, lighting blue, when it's homecoming, light the courthouse up blue and white, you know, for school spirit, or 4th of July, light it up red, white, and blue. These are not something that would burn all the time. They would burn from a time through Christmas, but it would just be designated holidays and special events that we would use them for. And one of the biggest things about this product too is they don't really advertise it this way, but we could also use it as an emergency response system with our city and community if we had like a major event that's going to affect the city and the county. You know, we could have a designated color like yellow, or just some designated color that, you know, if you drive by and you see the courthouse lit up yellow, then you need to go to this area. You know, we could have something set up. This is where you go, you find out what the emergency is, what's being done, what you need to do, if anything. So it can also be used as a city and county-wide emergency alert system. But that pretty much sums it up on what we're wanting to do and what our plans to do are.
Have they priced this out yet? Do you
Do
know?
what now?
Have they priced this out?
They have priced this out, but it's really ballpark right now, because until we can actually, the company's coming down next week. Bilingual is out of Lexington, and they're the dealer for these lights. OLO is the company. They've been in business for years. But they're going to come down next week and meet with us. Myron is going to meet with us. Anybody else that wants to be here can too. But we're going to go over the system until we get exact measurements and design. We don't know, but a ballpark price, it runs about $22 per linear foot is what it runs. And so the project, it will be expensive. It will be, but it's really not going to be as bad as what a lot of people that have already talked to about we even thought. I mean, it's less than what I thought it would be. But, you know, it's a project I think the community needs. I think they want it. And with everything going on, I think it's something that we need to give us and the community. And that's part of my job too, is doing what I can to draw people to our downtown. Because whenever we do that, it benefits the merchants, it benefits the economy. I mean, it's a whole big package deal whenever we have things like this that draw people, new people into our community that may not be here otherwise. But that's what our plan is.
Have you already started any kind of fundraising for this?
Do what now?
Have you started any kind of fundraising for this?
I haven't. Until I knew for sure we could get it done and we could get a product that I was confident with, I haven't even started that yet.
Okay.
But I feel like the community wants it. You know, we'll give the community opportunity to get involved with it. We'll do some fundraising. But again, I said Renaissance is prepared to, you know, cover the cost, whatever we don't fundraise for.
Okay.
So,
I mean, tourism could be involved in this too somewhat.
yes, and I've talked to tourism about it,
I
and
think that would be
they're definitely interested. I think it's gonna be a lot of people interested. I mean, people have been telling me for the last couple of years, find out what it'll cost, and we'll make sure you get the money, find out what it'll cost. So I've spent about the last year trying to find something that I knew was reputable and, and Myron felt really comfortable with it too, because he's an electrician and he's going to probably be the one to put them up for us.
Will you let me know when Myron is going to climb to the top of the courthouse and put these lights up?
Hey,
Because I'd like to
we
see.
was up there about, what, a week
Well,
ago?
when you go up there, you're probably going to see a few scratch marks from my fingernails because I was like on my bottom, scooting around the top of the bell tower. But yeah,
Yeah.
I've been up there. Yeah.
Maybe we can get pictures put on Facebook.
All right.
All right.
Kim, that's good news.
Yep.
I mean, I
Yeah.
hope everybody is excited about it as I am, and I hope everybody will support Renaissance in this project. It's a big project, it's a massive project, and that's why it's taking a little time. But
Well,
when we do it, it needs to be done right.
I don't know if all the rest of these do, but every Christmas, I get multiple messages. Why will y'all not put the lights back on the courthouse?
I hear it, no telling how many times when I'm stringing lights in the trees in November.
I've
But,
heard it.
Can I start telling them now we're waiting on Myron to do it?
Yes.
Okay,
That'll be fine, yeah.
absolutely.
we do, but
Yeah.
I was on the very first committee when we redid it.
Yeah, I forgot about it, yeah.
And, Myron
Yep.
put them up, we raised the money to get it out there. I say that I was one of the committee that worked on it. It's a great project.
Scott and I spent many hours on top of that roof.
Yeah, I was beating him up by it.
Somehow I'm not buying all that, Myron, but okay.
But it's Myron, I really think Myron's
Yeah.
done something, he knows all he does about putting up lights and helping around his community.
exactly, and he does it as a volunteer basis.
Absolutely.
And this project would cost a whole lot more money if he didn't do that, so it's.
Before he was back.
It's a huge contribution to the community and what they're doing. I was trying to figure out how long it's been since we've had lights on the courthouse, and I talked to Sonny
been
Monroe.
what?
Best we can figure, it's been since about 2008. It's been about 15 years.
That
So I
sounds
think it's
about right.
15 years too long.
Yeah,
It's,
and I think they were blue, weren't they?
I'm not sure.
One time we had,
It probably was somewhere around, somewhere thereabout. And, I'm trying to think, Marty, when they were
White.
taken down for that roof repair, it was probably.
All right. That's good news, Kim, thank you.
Henderson's still here, so.
Yeah.
As far as anything else Renaissance go, we're getting ready for Booth Fest on Saturday. And 1st of November, you'll see me out there start stringing lights and trees and getting ready for Small Town Christmas, which will be the first Saturday of December, December 2nd. Parade will be that day at 4 o'clock, and we'll have activities from noon all the way up until parade time, and then after, just like we did last year. So watch social media for all the plans for that.
All right, very good.
Thank you all for letting me speak.
Thank you. All right, next, Emergency Management Director Bob Palmer is going to give us a brief update on the emergency communication tower and where that's all at.
I snuck in from the side.
Okay,
I appreciate you letting me come in and do a quick update, if I can figure out how to run this thing. I just went out and took a couple of pictures today at the tower site. About 6 weeks ago, they erected the tower, got it all in place, and put the fences up about a week and a half ago, I believe, something like that. So the tower's in place. They're working on the electrical. They've got the gravel, the fence up, the gravel's down, the pads for the shelter and the generator and the propane tank are all in place and everything's bonded. So now it's literally just go ahead and put the pieces of the puzzle in place, and that's going to start the structure. The shelter is supposed to be put in place the first week of November, and when it gets in place, sometime between then and the end of December, the generator should show up. Once the shelter's in place, we'll be able to start putting that's the only 4 pictures I took. Once the shelter's in place, we'll be able to start putting the infrastructure inside the shelter, get the racks in place and start getting the repeaters. All of that equipment is sitting over in Bowling Green at the Motorola dealer over there that's holding it for us. So really the update I have is it took a long time for things to start happening, but now it's starting to click off. The tower's up, the fence is up, the shelter will be in place, the microwave dishes will be put in place shortly after the shelter goes up. And then it's just a lot of technical stuff that Motorola and KSP have to get worked out to make it all communicate correctly. So our one of the big things the reasons we purchased it was to get the additional technology of using cellular and that stuff. That's still all being worked out. We didn't order the portable radios for quite a while because we wanted to make sure that they got all the bugs worked out of them. Because when we purchased this, they were still in the beta testing of that stuff. So they had 1,500 or 2,500 radios went to a police department up north of Chicago. And they asked me if I wanted them to order them as soon as they shipped those, and I said, no. Go ahead and let them find out what all the problems are, and then we'll order them. So those are ordered. I haven't talked to them in the last couple I got a meeting tomorrow, and I should know when those should be in. So anytime we've had a new sheriff's car or a new police car come in, we've been putting the new mobile radios in those. So when the time comes, it'll just be a matter of flashing the programming to them, and they'll be up and running. So things are moving along at a faster clip than they were for quite some time. We're still on target to hopefully early April, maybe into May, we should be able to turn the key and make the whole system work and switch over to that. So exciting to me that things are actually happening. So that's the judge told me to be brief, and I don't know if I can get any briefer than that.
You're doing a great job, Bob.
Pretty good for me.
I do have one question for you. When we get to that April-May timeframe and you're ready to click on, KSP will have the backbone, all of that will be ready to go by that time also?
They say they will.
Okay.
I'm not going to stand here and promise you that they will. But whenever our part of it will work.
And they're claiming they'll be ready.
And they're claiming that they will be ready.
Okay.
There's a lot of legal stuff, the contracts with making, with cellular and all that stuff tied together that they've got to get worked out. Policies and procedures and all that. They say they will. Our part will be ready to go by that time. So.
Very good.
Any questions? If not, I'll sneak back out the side door.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Bob. All right. Next is an update on the Franklin Simpson Comprehensive Plan. We have Mr. Ed Holmes with EHI Consultants. It looks like we have City Manager Kenton Powell.
Well, you just introduced them, but I just wanted to, with EHI and, Ed and Ryan Holmes, but I just wanted to kind of reflect back. I guess we met first time in January 27th, 2022, almost 2 years ago, and we had a long meeting because we were looking to go forward on a comprehensive plan. And so we talked for, I think it was actually a 3-hour meeting that we threw out different questions and different scenarios, and we immediately felt connected, and it kind of an instant bond. So I just thought it would be a good time to kind of give an update. I don't know which one you're all going to present first, but there's a few slides here. So, and there's probably some time for some little Q&A if the judge and the mayor would let them. So afterwards, just to tell us where we are.
right, so, yeah, we're here to talk about the comprehensive plan again. So it's Franklin Forward 2040, and so, we just recently actually had a conversation about this, and so because of the time frame, we actually want to think about, it's getting close to 2045 because the plan itself is a 20-year projection, and so what we want to do is kind of go back and start to think about as we move forward, no longer calling this Franklin Forward 2040, but Franklin Forward 2045. And I do want to note too that even though it says Franklin Forward, that we are taking the county into consideration. So this is a plan for both the city and the county itself. And so as Kenton mentioned, we started this 2 years ago, and really what laid the foundation for this process is a strong community outreach process. And I do want to thank Tammy. She was instrumental in getting the word out and creating the branding, things like that. And so over the 2-year process, we started with a community profile survey. And so we actually had 1,100 respondents to that survey itself, which is very robust. We had 3 community conversations. If you all remember, this is where we rolled up our sleeves. We sat around round tables. We were drawing parcels out, marking up parcels. Should this be commercial? Should this be industrial? And so we went back and forth, and then we went back and forth with our advisory committee meetings too. So that was more of a sounding board. I think it was about 18 to 20 members, community leaders, people from the Industrial Authority Board, folks from the schools we had represented. And then we also had 3 public meetings as well. So again, that was where we came back, we synthesized all the information, and so we were really presenting back to the public. And so again, what we always wanted to stress was that this isn't our plan. This is a collaborative effort. And so, what you see before you is not what we decided. It's really what you all decided. And so we were just here to help shepherd this process along. And throughout the process, we estimated at least 1,800 people have been directly engaged, whether it's through social media, whether it's through direct prints and handouts, things like that. And so we always say if those 1,800 people actually told just one person, you're looking at a total outreach of about 3,600 people, and it's almost a third of the city's population. So I think that's very strong numbers, and so we feel very comfortable with where we're at. And so again, you can see some of the photos there. So this is just a reminder over the 2 years in that top right corner where we're at the Roxy Theater. That was where we actually kicked off the public engagement process. And so when we put the plan together, we'll have a lot of photos because I do think that's very important to show just how strong and robust your process was and how engaged residents were. And the photos on the bottom, that was where we sat around the round table. I think that was the one people really got engaged with. That was where we were drawing out the future land use maps and the growth areas and where we thought growth should occur. So at a glance, again, in the comp plan, we'll have a lot of this data. It's a much deeper dive, but I won't bore you all today with the numbers. Again, I always like to think of, Franklin today and then Franklin in 2040 or 2045. And so even though those numbers show 2040, we are going to go back and look at 2045 projections and what that means in terms of the comp plan itself. And so depending on...
Go ahead.
Yep, and just depending on data sources, some of those numbers may vary. It really just depends. So
that was my question because I'm trying to, because when you're showing this Franklin population and then Simpson County population, in the Simpson County population, you're showing that includes both inside and outside the
right,
city.
And that's kind of,
and the reason I even asked that because the 2020 census showed countywide at like 19,560 something, and just based on other factors, my guesstimation now would be that we're probably somewhere 21,000 plus here now in 2023.
Yep,
countywide.
And I know when we pulled those numbers back in 2022, the census wasn't complete, and so we were going off of older projections, so that's why you see the numbers are slightly lower.
Okay.
But now we have the updated numbers, so we can update that. You'll see those numbers, but yeah, you're correct. It's probably more likely almost 20,000 at this point. And then again, just some more general data. Again, the median age is pretty much on par with what the state of Kentucky is at 40 years old. Your median household incomes are actually pretty strong at $52,000, and then your housing tenure. So that's where you kind of see a discrepancy between Franklin and Simpson County itself, especially when you look at the owner-occupied housing tenures. Franklin's at 46%, and then Simpson County itself is at 64%. So with that, you'll see in the comprehensive plan, all of this is really to build a strong foundation and the basis of the future land use, and I think that's really the meat and the heart of your comprehensive plan, because this now gives you that decision-making mechanism moving forward.
Thanks. I'm Ed Holmes, and I'm going to talk more about the future land use. And also, I want to recognize Franklin and Simpson County for your efforts and support in crafting the planning document. The planning document itself is going to have about, let me get my glasses on so I can see. There'll be over 7 goals, 51 objectives within the plan, and some of the chapters that the plan, there'll be 11 elements or 11 chapters. That's going to be your demographics, population, economy, housing, transportation, public services, environmental conditions, existing land use, the future land use, growth areas, and implementation. So that comprises what's going to be the document itself. And as with any plan, the meat of it is going to be the future land use map. And that's where a lot of our work and effort went into where and how you want to grow, and growth should occur in and close to the city limits of Franklin itself, the more intense and high intensity density of uses. But when you break down your land use categories, looking at that, you can see the 233 acres agriculture within that land use map itself. Low density residential is 2,000 acres that we're projecting will be needed for the year 2045. High densities, you can see 780, commercial 12, all the way down to mixed use. Now that's not saying all that will occur, but we want to be able to provide a range of choices of where development should occur. And that also restricts it to availability of water, availability of sewers, roads. And there's no way you're going to build out 7,000 acres by the year 2045, but it does give a balance of where and when growth should occur depending on infrastructure availability.
And are all these numbers what is currently inside the current city limits of Franklin?
No, that's adjacent. All those numbers are either, some is within and some is outside the city limits, but it's adjacent to the city limits of Franklin.
Would that be what's colored in on the map here?
Yeah.
So that's what's colored in on the map up there, or what I'm looking at, is 6,920
Yeah, right.
acres?
That totals 6,900 acres.
Yeah. So, I mean, the one that's throwing me was the ag, 233 acres of ag. 'cause I mean,
That's within Franklin.
Okay, within the city of Franklin. Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you got much more outside the county, but
Yeah.
we're talking in and adjacent to the city of Franklin
Gotcha.
itself. Let me go to the next one. And what we did was we broke these down into growth areas, and the plan will go into more detail. There's basically 5 growth areas, and based on their locations, the northern, central, southern, and southwest and eastern growth areas. And that gives you a breakdown of where that growth, the acreage that we've allocated for those growth areas, and it breaks it down into commercial, industrial, and residential. So in the text of the document itself will identify if sewer is available at the time or when sewer will be projected. Growth cannot occur without infrastructure, and that's going to be the key driving factor. One thing I noted all my years of doing planning and comprehensive planning, the city and the county and the Joint Planning Commission didn't have a land use map. I don't know how they were doing it. They've done an excellent job given to date. They were basing on zoning and different variety, but the KRS 100, the planning statutes, require that you have a land use map. And for some reason, you never had a land use map. So this will be a cornerstone critical piece of this. I commend the city, the county, and the planning commission for being able to effectively deal with growth without the provision of some type of a land use map. Also, the statute requires you update the planning document every 5 years. I mean, you won't have to go through an exhaustive process we did this time. We hopefully that you will leave you a document, that'll be your document, that you can review the goals and objectives, you can review the growth area maps, the land use maps, and say, hey, we think you're on track to where we're growing. But we'll leave you with a solid document that will help guide the growth and projection here in the community. Is there anything else, Ronnie? Oh, the next steps. We're also working with the staff and the planning commission to update their zoning ordinances and subdivision regulations. That really goes hand in hand with your document itself. There are some issues we need to talk about. How do you handle mixed use within the community? How do you handle townhouses, condominiums, development plan issues? So we're going to look at their zoning and subdivision regulations and provide some recommendations as you adopt the comprehensive plan. We'll also have some recommendations on updating the ordinances to better enable the planning commission to do their job. As Ryan said, our final public meeting will be the end of November, and then the plan adoption process will be early December. That's when we'll bring the document to the commission and the fiscal court for your adoption. We'll also take it to the planning commission for their approval, adoption, and recommendations to you as well. So we're almost across the finish line after two, and it's been an exciting, interesting process. It was give and take. I think we've heard what the people were saying, and so really it'll be a plan that represents, your voices. I'll be happy to.
Ed, I think one of the things too that would be good for it to be made known that back to the surveys, everybody in Simpson County, Franklin and Simpson County, had an opportunity to participate in these surveys. It was city, county-wide. So I think it would be good that the public.
Right, and the basis of the plan was based on that survey. I was telling Kenton, the process, sometimes it's better to be good than lucky, or lucky than good. But we started the process with the survey, and that formed the foundation of what the community told us they wanted. Then we built on that with community meetings, community conversations, and advisory board meetings. So all that led to where we are. So that you're right, Mayor, that survey was really important.
So ultimately, there will be a document that will be provided that would be from information that your firm has gathered.
Yes.
That you would ultimately lay in front of the city, county government and say, here's what we suggest or recommend be adopted into your planning and zoning comprehensive plan.
Right.
Based on information we've gathered.
Yeah, like we break it down into those 11 chapters that I quickly talked about, but it'll talk about your housing, the economics of the community, the growth of the community, and it'll end up with land use and implementation recommendations on things that if you want to grow, this is how we think you should grow, and these are the parameters by how you can make it happen. So it'll be one document with everything in it.
And we will get that before the meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we hope to have it by that November 30th meeting, and so maybe a week or two before that. So by mid-November, late November, we'll have that, and by the time you get ready to approve it, you'll have that document.
Okay.
Well,
because it's hard to make a decision with it, just handing it to us at a court meeting.
Yeah, it wouldn't be fair, and believe me, it's if you like to read.
Well, yeah, and the question obviously is, as you're well aware, we've had emails going back and forth over a few issues. Just want to make sure that when we're going to introduce something or implement something into the planning and zoning comp plan or the planning and zoning regs, that both bodies of government are going to be involved in doing so and making sure that we're on the same page as we move forward.
I mean, to the extent that both bodies of government are involved in those issues, sure. And like the comprehensive plan, absolutely. It'll have to be adopted by both bodies.
Well, yeah, because I mean, as y'all say, I mean, my understanding has been since my time in local government, which was even 8 years on the city commission prior, that the only way we're changing planning and zoning regs is by both bodies of the government to adopt those changes in the regs.
That's not always been the case. The city has subdivision regulations that the county has not adopted. The city has drainage regulations that the county has not adopted.
Well, I'm not saying that the county would adopt identical, but I think the county has agreed in theory and passed the same ordinances.
No, that's not. Subdivision regulations have been in effect since 1992 or 3. They weren't adopted by the county. And as I said to you, the KRS, they don't have to be the same because not all city and county needs are identical. The city needed subdivision regulations, needed drainage regulations to address particular issues inside the city that the county may not need. You don't need the same thing in Gold City that you need in Western Dallas. It's just not the way it works. Same way with code enforcement. You don't have the same code enforcement regulations that we do because they're not legal.
Any other questions?
But as far as the whole comprehensive plan that affects the entire community, yes, it needs to be adopted jointly, just like we did. We're about, 13 years past due, Ed, something like that.
Yeah.
The last one we passed was 2010.
Yeah.
I was planning and zoning attorney for working on the last ordinance.
What year was that?
That's 2010?
Well, I took over this job in November of 7. So
We started working on it. But I mean, both sides have to adopt your comprehensive plan. And it should be, it's statutory, it's supposed to be in 5 years. We're just a little behind.
Yeah.
Same driver, we're probably on the same track as we were.
yeah, you seem to have trouble doing it.
Right. But a key component of that will be the land use map, guide growth. And we think in addition to that, it's important to look at your ordinances, subdivision and zoning to help the planning commission do their job.
Good report. Good report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, the next, I'm going to bring Fire Chief Leslie Goodrum up. As y'all all recall, we've had lengthy discussion about the possibility of staffing the fire department around the clock. And we had our last meeting back in the spring, and I think the discussion was that we wanted to bring something to the table in our fall meeting and try to resolve what I believe is a public safety issue that is long overdue in a resolution. I want to say something before we get started because, it's kind of a funny thing, and this always becomes a political issue every election cycle. So I want to get this out of the way before we start because, the political question every election cycle is, how come we don't have unity between the city and the county government? What do we do to restore unity? And it's a question, if you've been in how many of you have been in a political forum where that question gets asked?
Was it the last forum?
Yeah, it was in the last, it's been in every forum I've been at. And so finally, in this political cycle, in this last election cycle, my answer was this, and I truly believe this. Unity does not mean that we all think the same thing all the time. Unity means that we have differences of opinions and discussion, and then we come together to determine what we believe is truly best for our community. And all parties may not always get what they want all the time, but yet we're going to continue to work together and be friends with one another and get it done. So we've got that discussion about where we're at with the fire department. If y'all recall, the fire chief laid out models and gave his advice and opinions as far as the fire chief on where we needed to be. And I just think where I'm getting at, I think helps move us along in here today. I really do. Because, the discussion was, and the chief will tell you, his ultimate recommendation would be that we have at least 5 folks staffed at that fire hall around the clock, but 4 would be ideal. I don't think politically we're able to get to that point. I think politically where we're at, if I'm reading everybody right, we just had a meeting where myself, the chief, Kenton, the mayor, and Commissioner McCrary was there. I don't think we're going to get to the 4 or the 5. I think in those discussions and other just hearings, I think we're going to be able to get at least 2. Do I think that's the best? I don't necessarily think that's the best, but I think it gets us started. So with that, Chief, you take on and we'll see what kind of questions we have.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for, coming together to further this conversation. So I think the comprehensive plan was a good segue to this. Mr. Holmes mentioned the infrastructure, and that's why we're here today, to talk about how the fire department, is going to fit into that infrastructure. We obviously have a lot of growth. We're projected a lot of growth. I couldn't quite see all the numbers, but it did look like there were some significant things anticipated. And I think it's just, again, it's time for us to, address this issue about more full-time staffing so that we can get out the door a little faster, provide the community with a little bit of service, a little better service than, what we're currently staffed with today. So, again, the judge mentioned the meetings that we had. I shared a similar take on it. I think, again, unless, you guys are going to do something different today, that the 2 people, that the 2-man model with 2 full-time and then the 2 part-time, or the 2 on-call people, is what was kind of garnered from that workshop. So with that, I have numbers. If you want to do those again, we can. I'm happy to answer any questions or go into any of those details that as far as the financial impact.
Chief, I think one thing that's really important to put in perspective here is, not too long ago, I came down and talked to you and all the guys at the fire department. And the discussion there was that if a call goes out while they're at the station, that a truck rolls out of that place in 2 minutes or less. The maximum should be 2. Their goal is 90 seconds. Did I understand that correct?
Yeah, 90 seconds is kind of the
it's the goal. So because you get the call, you want that truck out of that building in 90 seconds. If you're off duty, meaning that there's no one at that fire hall, and even if you're on call, like now we have guys that are on, paid a stipend to be on call. But depending on exactly where they're located, now they'll be somewhere in the county. You can't be on call and outside the county, but depending on where you're at, they were describing to me that your best case scenario is roughly 8 to 10 minutes getting out the door, could be up to 12 or 14 minutes getting out the door. Did I understand that correctly?
That's pretty accurate, yeah. When we're not on duty at the actual firehouse.
So, I think it's a huge deal that around the clock that we're at least able to roll a fire truck out of that station in 2 minutes or less. I think that's enormous. I think that is an enormous deal.
So again, just let me reiterate, just so the public is clear on what what we had talked about before. Again, was I wanted 5 people around the clock for optimal optimal service, I'll say. I understand, our building is going to be a little bit of an issue because there's no way that we can house 5 people there 24 hours without some kind of major remodel or an addition or whatever. So again, with 4 people, we can make it work. And that would allow us, again, for our 2 in, 2 out that we discussed. And that was that is a OSHA regulation. That is one of the Code of Federal regulations that they have. And again, what that states is, if we are in a situation to where we have to put on an air pack to go into a house, we are required to have, there are 2 people that are inside, we're required to have 2 people outside. Things go bad, they have to be there to rescue those. So that would allow us for, on a structure that we are, we want to go in and put the fire out, obviously, right? That would allow us for an immediate response. We do less than that, then, by rights, unless it is a known rescue, we would have to wait with our 2 people that are full-time. They're going to show up in the truck, and they're just going to have to work from outside until those other 2 people who are on call, or 2 other people, get there so that we can establish the 4, so that we can, make sure we're working within the OSHA standards and recommendations. And again, beyond that, it is a safety thing for our people. OSHA and all aside, it's all about the employee safety.
Chief, I've said if you, I know you said you have to have 2 in, 2 out, according to OSHA and all, unless it's a known rescue.
That's correct.
And if you knew somebody was in the building, I don't think there's anybody in this room that would not try to help somebody if they were in need, but in y'all's situation. But if you didn't have the 2 outside, you went inside because you knew it was a known rescue, a firefighter gets hurt, that increases the county and the city's exposure in a lawsuit, would it not?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
I think council cleared it up last time when we had that discussion and recommended not, openly and just deliberately violating the OSHA standard. But yes, to your point, and again, it's going to be tough because we are going to be put in that awkward situation to where, we're at a house, we've got the 2 firefighters that are on duty, the homeowner's expectation, as mine would be, is like, hey, the fire department's here, you should go inside and put my house out, right? And if they do that, because that's what we're trained to do, and inherently, we as people don't like to stand back and watch, an emergency situation. Most people want to get involved in somehow. They do that, something happens, one of them does get hurt, you got a workers' comp claim. I would think workers' comp certainly would have the right to deny that claim, knowing that, they openly violated, the OSHA standard. And not only that, it would have to be our standard operating procedure. And then that same employee who, tried to do the right thing would be subject to, discipline from the county. And there's a...
And then the other part, what I was going to ask there on that too, so if you went with what I'm hearing, and I'm not going to vote for the 2-person deal, I'm going to vote for 4. But if you only had the 2 there and they rolled out, you're saying it could be 6 to 10 minutes longer? So they could actually be at a house on fire and have to wait outside for anywhere from 6 to 10 minutes before they could actually go in to put the fire out?
It's going to depend on...
Without violating OSHA?
Sure. It's going to, again, depend on those 2 people that we have on call that would be responding to the station to get a truck, and then, or just whoever else might show up, from the volunteer side, or, it would be a callback situation. Mm-hmm. So but essentially, at that point, it would be just like a volunteer fire service, and you can kind of look back at what our response times are today and predict what that would be. And it may be longer, it may be, 12, 14.
So currently right now.
Question over here.
Okay. Let me, go ahead.
So currently right now, we're staffed from 8 to 4.
That's correct.
So after 4 o'clock, we have no one at the fire station.
That's correct.
So this year, we have established 4 on-call people after hours.
That's correct.
Correct? And we've also hired 4 more part-time people.
Okay. So
I guess what I'm saying is that I'm not disagreeing by no means, Chief, but 2 people in that fire station after hours is better than none.
Yes, I mean,
I mean,
you are absolutely correct.
So
I'm
we
not-
are bettering our fire department. You know, we're making steps
Sure.
in the right direction.
And I'm not discounting that in any way. What my big fear is that there's just going to be this expectation that we have addressed the full-time fire department, you know, and we are making progress, but, you know, is it where we need to be at a safe and, you know, manner? You know,
But it's
that's
fair to
the
say,
problem. Now,
yeah.
we're getting there, and there are a lot of things that we will be able to do. I mean, again, I don't want the public or anyone else to misunderstand and think that, you know, it's just a pointless endeavor because we're just going to stand around. That's not the case. But I think it just needs to be said and stated that the potential for what we just talked about with the problems is very real.
Yeah, and I think, Chief, and here again, you were there the whole time that I was there talking with all of our current firefighters. So if I say something that's like, if I say something, you're like, Judge, that's not really what they meant or what they said, stop me and say so. But I think it's worth noting for everyone here to hear the conversation that went on. Because I point blank ask all of the firefighters, you know, if we're staffed 24/7, where do you guys think we need to be as far as numbers? And every one of those guys said, we need at least 3 people here. So my question back to them was, what if you only get 2? Are you better off to have 2 or better off to operate like we're operating right now? Which is right now, so the public is aware. We're staffed Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. On 4 o'clock Monday afternoon, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday afternoon, until 7 o'clock Saturday morning, we have 4 volunteer firefighters that are paid a stipend to be ready on call. From 7 a.m. Saturday morning to 7 a.m. Sunday morning, we do have a 24-hour
They are working on a stipend, and
but they're there. But then from 7 o'clock Sunday morning until 8 o'clock Monday morning, we're back on just having 4 on-call stipends. And Myron, back to your point about the part-time and the temporary, a lot of that hiring was, as y'all well are aware, we had a really unfortunate accident out on I-65 where a couple of people traveling through were killed, and we had a firefighter injured that was missing a lot of work due to
That's true.
and so we got those people just to kind of cover those hours was what we done there. But back to what the firefighter said, if all we can get is 2, they felt like we were at least moving in a direction that we needed to be. And unless I'm misunderstanding something else, I think that it is at least a willingness, if whether we do it politically as governing bodies or whether we put it to a public vote, to move this forward for beyond the 2 around the clock at some point, if we have that opportunity and possibility. Am I reading all this correctly?
Everybody in this room loved that. However, even the 2 that are each of them is different forcefully of the dollar. I think she would agree. Ours, police, to receive customers. And you like to know the sort of where service problems. You have 2 firefighters that you know what it does. There's people all different families too. If you have to wait for the fire department to get there, to get a person cut out of that vehicle, their chances are amazing. Living through it, it's something like that. Let's say 2 is a tremendous thing. To me, that would be the payoff for that having to be on will far exceed anything else. Now, that's not bad, but they're going to bring something to our ranks on a lot more than else. So 2 is huge. Oh, I'm sorry. So 2 is a huge improvement, more than everybody else. But I think everyone's going to agree is that we love having more ambulances, 5 more for Sheriff Hobson, but I don't think he's going to be something. I'm not doing that. City police, we all agree that we want more. Nobody in this room is, nobody's gonna say that. But we have to collectively figure out what we pay for it. The public will need to know how much the city would have to raise taxes, because we would. It's a fact. I'm not sure how the county would supply their part of the funds. But needless to say, we all want to move forward. And I think 2 on will be a huge benefit for public safety. Because everybody in this room is for public safety.
And I, again, like I said earlier, I mean, I'm not discounting the fact that I think 2 is going to, it's going to help us. I just don't think that needs to be our end goal. So I'm wishing what next? So, on that note, as part of our I guess, workshop, we'll call it, it was a public vote came out of that, as maybe that is the next step on, where we go from here.
Keep in mind, it was only the commissioner and mayor.
Sure, no,
this wasn't the whole group.
that's what I'm saying, it was a workshop. These were just discussions that we had to try to further this meeting. I mean, and again, there's a lot of other options that we had talked about, I mean, I know some have said, hey, let's just add 1 firefighter per year until we get there, and, some have said, well, let's look at some kind of metric that says if we have this amount of population, we go to this, and, I mean, I don't have that answer.
Yeah.
But again, I think we've had some really good discussions, about where we need to be, and, all I'm saying is when we had this workshop that we were in, that garnered from that. Now, it's obviously up to to you guys what we do with that, where that goes. So.
Yeah, I think, Chief, it's a given that regardless what we do today.
Sure.
In this meeting, when we leave this meeting, the discussion needs to begin, where do we go from here and how do we get there?
Yeah.
Well, I said it at the last court meeting, we talked about having a vote. On average, there ain't gonna be 20–25% of the people vote. So you're still not getting a full representation of the whole county or city, even if you go to a vote.
Marty, on that, people that don't vote, they don't have a say. People that vote. they have
But
a
what
say.
you're saying is you want the people to have a
I
say.
mean, if they don't vote, then that's their fault.
I understand, but what you're saying is you want the people to have a say. But an election's not everybody's gonna vote, so they're not gonna have a
But
say.
it does give the public a chance to participate.
The public has voted on this in the last 5 elections.
There's going to be a cost to it. We all know there's going to be a cost to it, and it's
I
going to be a
understand.
taxpayer cost.
But the public has voted on this in the last 5 elections I've been in, because this has been a topic in every election. The public has voted and put their dependence in us to make the right decision.
I understand
So,
that more.
I know there isn't any of us sitting up here, if you had 4 bad tires on the car, you wouldn't put 2 on and say, well, that's just better than none.
If it's important.
You'd put them all on.
Get out and vote.
So,
And that's their
but-
problem.
But I really think it's a mistake not to go with the 4.
We had this discussion, I was a young man, about a new deal. Anyway, this, discussion come up, and I still, well, I just recently retired from EMS as a director, but till this day, even over how many years later, people still stop me at the post office and complain about the EMS ambulance tax. Now, yes, they're completely wrong, but nonetheless, people are still talking about that. So, to reply to your question, or your statement, Minister, I think we had some smart people back then. The public was real concerned about taxes. We're being taxed to death. Everybody discussed their recent property tax. Everybody in this room was got a shocker. And so, if we're going to go, again, I wish we had all those resources. But at the end of the day, if you're going to do a dramatic tax increase, the public should be, I think they should have a say like the mayor said, and they've done it with the EMS taxing district. To me, this is no different.
Yeah, this is not a taxing district.
Well, it's not
That's
right.
fine. It is.
It's still
Yeah, we have to have a financial plan on how we're going to fund this. We have to have that. We can't go and ask the public to vote on something without them knowing what they're going to be voting on. I mean, there's going to be a price tag to a 5, and I think that's probably what we need to be. There's going to be a price tag to that. And we can't absorb that out of our general fund. We can't do that.
This is kind of a side note, but it's worth noting. If you look at the 10 counties in the Brad, the overall tax, we are the third lowest tax out of all 10 counties in the Brad. So, and I get it, believe me, I don't know anybody that likes paying taxes, but when you get your tax bill, you can complain here, but you can move one county owner over, and I promise you it'd be worse. So we're faring pretty well in the tax department. But we could sit here and talk all day. Here's the thing too. And I have said this repeatedly and openly since I got involved in local politics 13 years ago. And to be quite honest with you, the discussions about the fire department in 2006 and the 2006 and the 3 years ensuing, 7, 8, and 9, was what led me to run to be on the city commission in 2010. Because, to be quite honest, some of the discussions that were had about the fire department back then it was some of the craziest stuff that I think I've ever heard. So, but what I've said over and over and over is that public safety is our #1 priority. Sheriff was sitting right outside, Chief Solomon's right over here. I know the both of those guys have heard me say that repeatedly. Any of you that served with me on the commission has heard me say that repeatedly, and these guys have probably heard it enough that it makes them sick. So I think if we can, here's my thing. The Sheriff's Department and the Franklin Police Department, although to Commissioner McCrary's point, they may not be staffed at the level they would really like to be staffed at, but we have response 24 hours, 7 days a week with law enforcement. Same with the ambulance service. You may not have the number of trucks and the people you would necessarily like, but we're staffed to operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I think we owe it to our community as government bodies to work to get our fire department to that place. So I hope we get to see a vote on something in here today.
As you said, we've done talked about this since '06.
Yes, well, since even probably before then, but that's when I started paying attention.
We can make a big move today.
Yeah.
If it is the 2 and the 2. It's a huge move, so.
I go back to what the firefighters told me. They would really like 3, but having 2 at least gets us moving where we need to be.
Yes.
But what I would really like, and this means nothing except what these guys that are well, from here over, for the next 3 years, from there over at least 1 more year, because unfortunately I remember those days where you had to run every other year for election. But it really means nothing other than I would like this group of people, if that's what we do in here today, to make a solemn commitment that we're going to, from tomorrow, we start working up a plan. We start figuring out what do we got to do to get to what we ultimately need to be.
Yeah.
Let me ask a question, please. I heard this number 2006. What was the 2006 conversation?
Well,
I've been around.
the city of the county,
you hear this, and I want people, I do want people to be refreshing as to exactly what the 2006 conversation was pertaining to. Chief, you wasn't understanding.
I would say, I was a volunteer for the city fire then.
and I can't speak to all of it, obviously, Wendell, because I wasn't there just watching, but at that time, the city had its own fire department, the county had its own fire department, and there was a lot of back and forth discussion about what one was doing versus the other and whether we could combine them, and some of the conversation was kind of out there, honestly. And the talk then too was people want to know why are we not why do we not have response around the clock? So we're talking 17 years ago.
The city and county, we finally made that happen. Is that correct? The first thing?
Finally
We
made.
finally made that happen.
What's
The
that?
merger.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Finally made that happen, right?
Yeah.
One step at a time. Is that correct?
Yeah, but what I'm saying was the conversation was at that time, I mean, I know the conversation's been going on for 17 years. Do what?
Do we not have a city and county fire department working together right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so we made that merge
Yep.
one step at a time.
Yep.
Now-
But the conversation-
Hold on.
Well, you asked me a question, I'm trying to answer.
Well, now, I think we merged. Have we or have we not?
That wasn't the issue at the time. The issue at the time was people wanted the fire department to operate around the clock 24/7.
I get that.
Okay.
Let's see.
We're taking steps at a time. I just heard just a few minutes ago that our planning and zoning regs were completely outdated, but they're trying to bring it into some perspective now through the comprehensive plan. Same as every other entity in regards to this community. You know, this here is no bragging rights that we have with the city, but we've known for quite some time that we needed a new police station. And we developed some kind of comprehensive plan with a financial plan to make that happen. If you drive on Madison Street right now, you're gonna see that. This big conversation we have in the room, and I applaud you, Judge, because obviously, I think I heard, September, October of 2022, 2023 before, or 2022, before the election, our last election. I think I heard you speak, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I think I heard you speak and candidly say that when you first took office, this is one of the first things that you said you wanted to come forth. We're in the fourth year, fourth quarter of the election, and you're springing. Here we are. Now, is this something that we need to talk about? Absolutely. Public safety is something that we definitely owe the voters and the taxpayers. We owe them a way without burdening them to be able to do it. I don't want to get off into the whole nuts and crannies of business, but let's talk about something here that needs to be talked about. Over 20 years ago, we developed an industrial authority, and we tried to have industries in this community. Okay, now, you know, and one of the ways was to work with the industry to come and give it tax exonerations, things of that nature. That was the way, we didn't have any other leg to stand on but to work with them, and we're doing better now. We're doing much better now. But we're still talking about giving tax exonerations to bring industry into this community. And those tax exonerations is taxes that we can be using to fund these projects that we're talking about right now. But we're still talking about giving tax exonerations to possibly industries that we shouldn't, and we probably don't have to anymore. Not right now, because we're looking good in that category. So, I'm saying some things that maybe I shouldn't say, and I'll be honest with you, I'm an elected official, and transparency is what I'm bringing right now. And people in this community needs to know. It shouldn't be on the backs of our taxpayers to have to do this when we have mechanisms in order to be able to get this done. So we have to reconsider how we channel that process so it will add revenue so that we can move forward to make these things happen. And we shouldn't be in no, I don't know, each other's throat. And you made a comment a few minutes ago about us not being able to agree on everything in unification. And that's great and wonderful, but we have to learn how to agree to disagree and move on if we can.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think as we make these steps towards what the community is best for that, we have to definitely look at what we can afford to do. I think Commissioner McQuarrie, he made a very strong point, as well as the magistrate over here, Fire Thurman. How are we going to pay for this? That's the question, because it all came up right about the time of election. So, how are we going to do this? Do you have a plan for that? Do you have a plan? Let's hear it.
We can fund it on our end without making any tax increase other than moving the health department to its own taxing line. But let's go back to the industrial authority thing, Wendell, because there's a little bit of something there that's not completely accurate.
Okay.
Because the industrial revenue bonds and the KBIs that the industry come and ask for are state incentives that we're basically forced to participate in.
KBI.
Yes.
KBI.
Yes.
And the last industry,
Didn't
the
ask for
Trader
anything.
Joe's didn't get any tax.
They asked
They paid for the land.
They asked for a KBI on like 90 of 800 employees. But that's not what we're here to discuss.
Absolutely,
No, we're
you're
not.
exactly right. But we're talking about funding that could come in from the city and the county. We could drag this out all day, and I don't mean to go there with that. But we're just talking about how we're gonna fund this without creating a burden on our citizens in this community. I know because this is definitely a part of our responsibility. And maybe, maybe this conversation should have started a little bit before the last election.
These conversations have been going, I know, since 2006.
Full-time in the manner in which it's presented.
I guess.
If they haven't been going since 2006, then it's been the people sitting behind these desks' fault that it's not been discussed, because it was discussed during the 2006 election.
In the manner in which it's presented. That's all. I'm not talking about not having it.
One question I'd like to ask you, Wendell. You talked about the merger was 17 years ago, correct? That's what you were saying? And now we're talking about two full-time. We've made a step. Are we gonna wait 17 more years before we do anything else?
Let's hope not.
I mean, what is the plan?
Well, we're making a step, Marty.
But what I'm asking, what is the next step?
We're
When
making
does
a
the
step.
But when does the next step happen?
Well, the next
When you
step
can
will come.
afford it? When you can afford it?
As it can happen, is the way I see it.
It'll what?
As we can afford it, and as it can happen. It's got to be afforded. It's got to be paid for. If you put, you know that.
I know that. And I said,
And it needs to be presented to the public for them to be able to have a say in it on the expense. We haven't given the public yet what it's going to cost.
Yes, I've told the public clearly it costs $1.1
How much?
million.
I haven't heard that figure.
$1.1
How much it's gonna
million.
cost?
We talked about it in our last meeting.
Okay, where's the money going to come from?
Well, on top of the 1 million we're already getting.
That's right.
So it's really 2.3 million.
So
But it's not accurate to say it hasn't been talked about.
we're making steps, and we talked about it prior to this meeting.
But what is the next
We need to go
step?
ahead and take a vote on it. We don't need to belabor it.
Yeah, so
We need to go ahead and vote on it because the judge, the mayor, you, and McQuarrie, and we all talked about it. We all talked about what we were going to present today. And that's, and you know, you understood what it was. The judge understood what it was. I understood what it was. I think McQuarrie understood.
Correct, Mayor, but there were 3 commissioners and 4 magistrates that weren't in that room.
That's right. That's true. They've had an opportunity.
So let me interject if I may, we've covered a lot of ground here. And Marty, you're right, and I jotted some notes down just on the time frame and kind of how our department came to existence. Just for the general public, I think most of you folks know, but again, 2006 was when the city dissolved their fire department and contracted the services, to the county. And that's when the quote-unquote merger, did take place. But again, I mean, we've done some things in those years, the first couple where we addressed needs because there was maybe only one full-time employee. So, we hired 3. The purpose of that time was, again, I guess the funding wasn't there. I wasn't really in on that end of the conversation. But I do know for a fact that the volunteers were not available during the day. And that's when the response times were just really, really suffering. And that is why they hired those full-time employees during the day. And that's kind of how we've just operated that way ever since. But again, and I think you made a good point. I don't want to wait 17 more years for any other kind of action to happen. That's why we're, having these conversations. So to your point, Mayor, I mean, again, yes, that was kind of the workshop that we came with, and it wasn't necessarily what I, wanted, obviously, but it's, this is concessions, and, I can't remember, I think one of you guys brought up, the public voting initiative, and, again, that's fine, that's totally up to both bodies to decide, hey, this is how we want to move forward. But if you remember in that conversation, I said I would like to have something, and I don't know if it's, and done, I don't know how the term, if it's a resolution or whatever, maybe something more than just a gentleman's agreement, that we are going to work on a plan And again, I think Judge said, let's start tomorrow, because if we are going to put it on a public ballot, you have to realize, the election cycles, and as I read all that, I think it has to be on the November election. I never saw in those documents, did you get anything from Austin to say about May?
I did, but I'm like you, when you read it, it appears it has to be on the general election and not the primary
I think so.
election.
Do you know, is that correct? Because you had also sent me some stuff.
You mean
through
like
Ken.
next year?
So-
Like next year?
Well, I haven't said that.
It just depends, Myron, and the thing that,
It can, but here's where I was going with it, if I may. If we do put an initiative on November's ballot of 24, okay, saying whatever it is, we want to hire, enough employees to man it, 5 people, 4 people, whatever it is, and it'll be listed, just like you guys have voted on amendments and stuff before. It'll say what it is, what we're doing with it, here's the cost. We're going to hire this many people, here's what it's going to cost, and it'll be a yay or a nay. And it'll be that simple. But if the funding mechanism does come into play, because if it is something that is on the tax bills, then we will have already be past the point where the tax bills will have already gone out. So we're going to delay it again further to the next cycle of tax bills, which would be in October, correct? Or September when they prepare? Sorry?
of 25.
Of 25, that's what I'm saying. So we're pushing it on, down the road.
That would cause us to step up to the plate until that tax
Well,
revenue started coming.
Potentially, unless we just, said, hey, the public has voted on it, we know in a year from now, those monies are coming in, are we going to be able to pull money, from general revenue and go ahead and pull the trigger on this operation? I don't know. Again, that's up to y'all to decide. But the funding mechanism, I agree. It is certainly a part of the conversation. I would just like, in addition to the approval of voting for the 2 people, the 2-person model, okay? We're not just hiring 2, understand that. It's 2 per shift, and there'll be 3 shifts. I already have 3 people, so we'll be hiring 3 more.
Judge?
In addition to that, I would just like something that just says, yes, we agree that we are going to take this seriously and we're going to work on it, and, maybe we need to have more budget workshops to figure the funding mechanism out.
The question was, and I understand your...
For me or for the...
Well, for both of us.
Okay.
I understand you want a commitment. I don't think we can pass a resolution just...
Well, and again, I don't know what the proper...
Everybody in this room wants to improve it. I think we all...
There's not a soul here, I don't think.
The building would be an issue, with expansion, the true cost where the public knows. We'd have to do a lot of work. I don't think we can make a decision on we're going to do it this date or this date. But I think everybody in this room will want to work together and get it on the...
I agree, but 2, just keep in mind, next year is an election year, and, I think some of you are probably going to be up on the ballot, and you're going to have, want to be focusing on those types of things as well, which I understand, but I'd just like to get this conversation started, and, because again, this conversation is not new.
Well,
This has been going on for a really long time, and now that we've got some momentum, I would just like for it to keep, to carry that momentum until we get a resolution.
So I would say this, one thing that we all have to bear in mind too, is we keep saying tax increase if we're going to fund it. We also have to look at how are we spending the money we currently get, and what are we doing with the additional revenues coming. And if you look at me and say you don't have additional revenues coming, I'm going to look at you and tell you that you don't understand what the PVA is doing. Because you have to understand that not only do we have hundreds of more buildings and residences and structures that are being assessed right now than we did just a few years ago, we're also seeing assessments going up. Now, that also depends on what you do with your compensating rates, because I understand how all this works. If the assessments go up, now your tax rates have to come down if you keep the compensating rate. But you've also going to have to work out that there's going to be a tax rate that's going to have to make sense to cover the growth too. So you should be generating more revenue with your growth without having to necessarily increase tax rates, but you can't afford to decrease tax rates either. So you're going to have to keep a watch on all of that. So that's going to come into play at some point in all of this, is what are we going to do with tax rates, and what are we going to do with the growth numbers, so on and so forth. It could all be a long, drawn-out process. But my thing is, if we're going to get a motion on the county side, and that motion is only going to be to have two people, what my preference for the motion would be that we put together, and I don't know who's writing this motion, if anybody's even writing at this point, but my preference would be if two staffed around the clock, 24/7 is where we're headed, my preference for the motion would be that we staff the Franklin Simpson Fire and Rescue 24/7 with two full-time firefighters on each 24-hour shift, and also two on-call stipend firefighters for each 24-hour shift, and that we make a commitment to look at how we structure this down the road. Now, I don't know if you can put that in a motion and make it bind anything. I just think we need to have a commitment that we're going to look at what we're doing down the road. Because we can say we're going to do this today, we walk out of here today and think, well, we're done, and we're good, and so, I don't know.
Mayor?
You tell me, Counselor, how can we word a motion?
I mean, you can word the motion that way. The question is, even if you resolve to look into future growth and so forth, that still has no teeth in it. What you're going to have to do, I mean, you can resolve a lot of things, but I mean, you're going to have to figure out, maybe you need to set a time frame to come back with the plan. Maybe you have two motions. One is to hire the personnel in 24 hours, and have a second motion to come back with a plan for future growth by X date. And that way, at least you got something on the calendar. I'm not saying next week or next month, but I mean, I'm just saying you can do that, but I don't think it's like, it's about a bucket of one
So like the comprehensive plan that we looked at today that the city's working on had 1,800 respondents. In 2019, when I started here, I put out a public survey to our community, the best way I knew how, and there was about 1,500 people responded to that. The three top issues in that response was reliable internet, which thank God is happening, and is pretty much available about anywhere unless you live like in the deepest holler that we have where there's only one house. I'm sorry, Lisa. Yeah. The other issue was the park system being upgraded, and Lisa has done a phenomenal job taking us there. And the other big issue was people wanted this fire department staffed 24/7. That was the three top issues as people give me feedback in 2019.
Judge, I know we can talk about it all day, and I do like what you said about us coming back to the table, make a plan. But if the mayor, I want to make a motion that we proceed on with putting two men on 24/7, or women, 24/7, with the three we have, hiring three, city split in half, and the county split in half, 1.5 person on each side of the ship.
With the two on call as well.
Yes,
Thank you.
two on call. I'll make that motion.
Commission, hear the motion. All the commissioners hear the motion. Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Commissioner Stewart. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay. That's our motion.
Gentlemen, the city's made a motion to do something here. If I understand their motion, it is that we staff our fire department 24/7 on a two-man, 24-hour rotation with two men on, or I say men, I say that in a generic sense. We will absolutely take women firefighters. I don't want the politically correct police coming down on me. I'll make that motion. Got a motion by Scott.
Second.
I got a second by Myron. Pam, for the sake of clarity, I want to do a roll call, so if anyone would like to explain their vote, they can.
Well, I'm all for that, but I make a suggestion. Why don't we state specifically what the motion is for Pam to provide it down?
My understanding is the motion is to staff Franklin Simpson Fire and Rescue with a two-person rotation, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll be on a 24 on, 48 off rotation with 2 people at the fire hall around the clock.
And an
And
additional
an additional 2 people on an on-call stipend to be set to respond.
Thank you.
Judge, I hope I didn't miss it, hiring 3 more personnel and splitting the cost, city and county.
Yes. Yeah, it ultimately results in hiring 3 additional firefighters.
Yes, you're not going to say.
I have a motion by Scott and a second by Myron. Yes, please.
Scott Poston.
Yes.
Myron Allen.
Yes.
Marty Chandler.
No, but I would like to explain my vote for it. I voted no on this because we can fund the forward. We need the forward. We're less county exposure when we have the forward than we have the 2. We took 17 years, and it's been talked about all this time. Now I'm hearing it's going to be another 2 years before it goes to vote, before it can be on ballot and be enacted. This is something that's public safety. If anybody's sitting in this room watching on this camera, if it's one of your family members in a house, and a response time of 5 minutes could have made a difference, you're not really going to care about the funding. We're going to do that, we're going to do it. And I would vote for the forward, but I won't, because we need it now. We don't need to wait another 2 years or 17 years.
Jeffrey Byrne.
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
My vote is yes, because, and I want to explain something here, because this can, as Marty aptly said, has been kicked a long time, and I think we're finally at a point that we can at least start moving in a positive direction. I will also agree with Magistrate Chandler that my first preference would have been to have at least 4. Unfortunately, we don't always get everything that we want when we are negotiating something, but I'm voting yes because I am in favor of moving this forward and let's getting something done. And I can promise this community, I will drive this bus as hard as I can to get us staffed more adequately down the road. Now, having said that, we can have votes all day long on whether the public wants to participate financially by additional taxes, but you have a vote on commission members every 2 years and a vote on the mayor, the judge, and magistrates every 4. So if you don't like what we're doing, you've got to say at that poll too.
Judge, since Magistrate Chandler had a chance to explain the vote, I'd like to explain my vote. That's absolutely fair.
I didn't limit you to explaining your vote.
I know, we just done it a little different. I'll say it again and again. There's not a man at these tables that doesn't want 4 or 5 people in the full-time fire department, without a doubt. And all of us care about public safety. So far, the 80% majority think we need to figure out how to pay for it first. But the voters, they can hear all this. We have a due responsibility to be able to pay for stuff before we do things. Agree with Mr. Chandler. We are all for public safety. Make no mistake. Everybody in this room is.
Commissioner, I can tell you this. I wish we paid our law enforcement.
I do too.
And our ambulance service personnel and our firefighters, and I wish they got to sit around and do nothing. That's what I wish, but that's not a reality.
I agree, Jim.
You know, and speaking of public safety, it involves the fire department, but it involves the sheriff's department, it involves the police department. Public safety involves all of those people. It involves all of them. And I'll say again to myself, there's not a one of us sitting here that I don't think wouldn't like to have a full-time fire department, but we've got to be able to pay for it.
All right.
Well, gentlemen, thank you. I appreciate you, and I look forward to working with you in the future to help further the
Mayor, you have
discussion.
any other
Thank you, guys.
business with the commission, any commissioners, anything?
Any other commissioner have comment?
Magistrates, any other business? All right, all I need is a motion to adjourn from my side. Got a motion by Marty, second by Myron, all in favor, aye. Any opposed?
I'll need a motion. Make a motion by Commissioner Howell, have a second by Commissioner Williams. All in favor, aye. And we stand adjourned. You know.